Live.
Perfect. You just went live.
You what?
You just went live. I got the notification. Okay, there. I can see a little bit better.
Give people a few minutes if we're going to have them.
Sounds good.
Can you see on your phone? I mean, because I'm looking at Ketonic Revolution right now and I'm not seeing anything.
Like on the live?
Gotta love Facebook.
It's on your personal. Yeah, it's right here. It's on your personal. Dad.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome to anyone who's watching us on Facebook right now. This is Spill the Tea, and we're just waiting a few seconds to see if others are going to join us. We've sent out invitations. If you're interested in having an invitation, you can go ahead and hit us in the comments, and we can try to get you a link.
Or email us at ketonicrevolution.com.
Are you monitoring that, T-Bone?
What?
Are you going to monitor that?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or email us at ketonicrevolution at gmail.com, because then we can put you on the distribution list for getting direct links to all of our discussions, our weekly discussions on Spill the Tea.
So just you and T.
Oh, now I'm getting the, let's see. Okay. All right. Well, I don't.
Just the two.
It's just the two of us right now.
Hi, LG.
Hi, Lindy.
I got my shot.
Oh, good.
Now I'm eating an egg, but I have really bad sinus today, so it sucks.
I know mine's kind of bad today, too.
Okay, so it's
You like froze. What?
yeah, I know. It's weird. I'm wondering, is that my connection or is it?
It might be yours. But should we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So the topic today are four simple rules for starting the keto lifestyle. And actually, this is a very simple title for a very, very complex discussion, actually. And I was hoping that some of the others would make it. But all right. So what are the 4 rules? So the 4 rules are basically that you want to add fatty meats to your diet. All right, every chance you can get. We're used to, as an example, of ordering, lean steaks, and so when you start the ketogenic lifestyle, it's very smart instead to ask for the fattiest cuts of meat. When we look at a plate on an intuitive level, what we want are what we call, quote unquote, the green vegetables. But the green vegetables include vegetables that are actually not green. So for our listeners, I'm going to list the sort of the pocket list of these vegetables that are not going to raise your blood sugar to any sort of appreciable level. So this would be zucchini, yellow squash, and this is what I meant by quote unquote green, right? The yellow squash is part of this list. It's really good along with zucchini, will not raise your blood sugar. Asparagus, artichokes, Brussels sprouts, green beans. These are all the staple of a well-formulated ketogenic diet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're thinking about starting this lifestyle, then imagine a plate, right? And on that plate, you're going to have some type of protein. It could be, a portion of salmon. It could be a steak, a pork chop. It could be beef from a stew, for example, that you've made with a pork roast, or it could be from chicken soup or whatever. But there's going to be a portion of protein containing food that is going to be on that plate. And then the way I like to think about it is 2 relatively large portions of vegetables that 2 different vegetables that come off of that green list, which could be any of the ones that I listed. And then it's imperative. The third rule is to be tracking biomarkers. This is something I feel very strongly about. And as soon as I get done with the 4 rules, I'm going to open this up to my co-host. But I'm hoping we can have a discussion about this, because I got really fired up after sitting through a clubhouse last night, listening to some doctors. In any case, I think it's really crucial to measure biomarkers, and the ones that you want to be measuring, all right, along with the fatty meat and eating the vegetables off of the green list, are going to be your blood glucose, ketones, blood pressure, and weight. Now, there are plenty of arguments out there about, oh my God, don't measure those because it's going to stress you out. Okay, look, it's really crucial to measure the biomarkers. It's also equally crucial to measure those 4 biomarkers from a place in your mind which has been de-stressified, from an objective place. We need to know those numbers. And the reason that we need to know those numbers is because not only do we need to get into ketosis, but at least in the early days of this lifestyle, which should last outwards of months, not weeks, months, we need to know that we're staying in ketosis, right? And there's really good reasons for that. The main one being that we want to keto adapt. So 4 biomarkers that need to be measured: blood glucose, ketones, blood pressure, and weight. All right. And then the last thing that I think is super, super critical, and I'm hoping that we can get into really hashing this out this morning too, is the replacement mentality. All right. We want to avoid going into this lifestyle with the idea that we are going to replace that oatmeal breakfast that we've been having for the last 3 decades by going out and buying a keto oatmeal safe breakfast, or that we want to replace the cookies that we're used to eating after our dinner every single night, or like in my case, thinking as I go into this lifestyle that I want to replace the chocolate bars that I used to eat routinely with my dinner meals. Welcome, Ken. I'm just sort of setting the situation right now. So we want to avoid the replacement mentality, and that's going to include not going down the road of the keto sweets, not doing the sugar alcohols, and not eating processed keto food. And the reason for the elimination of the replacement mentality is because we want to change food cravings, number one, and number two, we want to avoid getting knocked out of ketosis. And for our viewers, we have Ken Barnes with us this morning. He is a senior level health coach out of the UK. Hopefully, I got that right. And he's been doing what Tanner and I have started doing now for much longer than us. Welcome to our session. And just to quickly summarize, because you came in a little bit late, what we're saying is the four basic rules of getting into the keto lifestyle: eat fatty meats, stick to the quote unquote green list vegetables, which I had listed off. Track 4 biomarkers: blood glucose, ketones, blood pressure, and avoid the replacement mentality that, okay, I'm going to replace all this sugar that I've been eating with a keto approved replacement. And I think that summarizes it. So it's time for me to be quiet and you guys, let's see. So T, why don't you jump in first, and then we can do Ken, and then we can just start having this massive conversation.
Okay. So yes, I think in order to start the keto lifestyle, those are the 4 main things to definitely start with. Regarding the keto replacement stuff, we do have a spill the tea from, what was it, 2 weeks ago, kind of talking about the meal replacements and everything. So if you're interested, and like especially keto labels, you should go watch that video for all of you that we're live with right now, because we kind of go into actual depth about what actual keto replacements are out there. For me individually, I think it's super one thing that I really try and stick with are, when I do go shopping, just I think we're so trained to think about, and I was actually asked this question the other day because one of the individuals, I'm here in South Dakota, and one of the individuals, my archery coach, he is a type 2 diabetic, and I'm helping him kind of lower his blood sugar because he actually heard my dad's story. And he's one of those, he's a really cool dude. He's 77. He's a mountain man. Like literally, he fought grizzly bears or something like that. And so he reads everything. And so I had one of our older books in my car, and I actually gave it to him. And his whole thing, he was telling me that he was on two doses of medication a day, and so he started the keto lifestyle, and he's like, his blood sugar is the best it's ever been in the past like couple years. So one of his biggest things is he's constantly asking me about, okay, he's like, but if I'm gonna eat meat, how lean does it have to be? Like, what is the fat intake? All of these things. And that was the biggest thing. I was like, you want to eat as much fat as you possibly can. One of the things that came up though, and actually I feel like this is a question that comes up a lot, is when you eat too much fat, what happens to your cholesterol? And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because that was a question that he had asked me. And I think that people have been trained to really think about when they have high fatty foods. So we've been trained to stay away from them, right? But they're actually good for us. And how can we revert that mentality to try and train people that actually it's good for you? Because now his biggest concern is the fact that the high fatty foods are going to increase his cholesterol, because that's one of his, that's one of the issues. So I guess from that little story, I think it's super important to kind of change the mentality to be like, okay, when you go into the aisles, you're not looking at the stuff with the least amount of fat. Again, you want the healthy fats. You know what I mean? You want olive oil, avocado oil. I love cooking with butter. You don't want the burgers with, what is it, 10%? I don't know, something lean, the stuff that you don't want. Start looking for that high fatty stuff that's considered good fats, as well as there's so many things that you can cook from the green section, and we also have recipe videos as well that you can go check out that I think are phenomenal. and get really creative with it. I guess it's kind of my feedback. I think the one biggest thing is people get scared of the fats. Start looking at the fats. That's kind of what I wanted to say. Dad, you're on mute.
Ken, go ahead.
I think you're, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I can see. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. I think it must be good morning where most of your people are calling from. Here it's a good afternoon. Pete, thank you very much for inviting me on your show, and Tana as well. I had the pleasure of meeting you on Clubhouse. Haven't seen you personally, but loved your energy. Me and Pete have a real great connection in the sense that we think alike, and we've worked in partnership, and I hope that's going to continue. You know, I'm not really clarity of the whole concept of your show, but let me just tag on to what Tana was just talking about there, and just trying to give a little bit of meat on the bone onto this fat issue. I'm 58 years old this year, so I've been around a little while, and I grew up fearing fat. I absolutely grew up, just like Tana's saying, I grew up fearing fat. I mean, I never ate an avocado, not because I didn't like it, because I thought, God, it's just pure fat, you know, and I never used butter. And when I started my journey, it was a challenge for me to eat fat. It was a real challenge. There was a lot of cognitive dissonance going on. But because I was overweight and I was pre-diabetic, and, you know, what did I have to lose? So, you know, I kind of embraced it. I suppose not everybody has that ability to do it so easy, but I'm a student. And because I'm a student, what I did, I thought, look, let me just try and understand this fat concept. So I kind of did a little bit of research, and just to tag on to what Tana was saying, let me just give you a basic brief history of why we have this fear of fat. I mean, it's strictly based on false misconceptions. I mean, you can Google it yourself. I mean, there's something called the lipid hypothesis, or the diet hypothesis. It was created by a guy called Ansel Keys in America in about 1950s. And basically speaking, it was a time when heart disease was on the rise. Heart disease was on the rise, and they couldn't work out. It was especially men. Men were dropping down, and they couldn't work out why all these men were having heart attacks. In comes Ansel Keys and says he has a suggestion. They did not look at smoking was actually on the rise at that point. That was completely ignored. Ansel Keys was aware of a Russian scientist who was doing some experiments on rabbits. And what he was doing, he was injecting liquid cholesterol into these rabbits. And these rabbits got atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of the arteries. So, lo and behold, look, injected rabbits with liquid cholesterol, it causes high cholesterol, causes hardening of the arteries. But what they didn't take in consideration is rabbits are herbivores. They're not carnivores. And that same experiment was conducted with dogs who are carnivores, and the results did not stack up. But that didn't stop Ansel Keys going on his journey to kind of vilify fat. He also, in summary, he also reinforced that by going to what's called the 7 country studies, where he went to numerous countries, and to kind of quantify his idea that fat gave us high cholesterol. Cut long story short, he did what's called in science as cherry pick. So what he did, he took the 7 countries that met his criteria. I mean, if you ever Google the 7 country study, you'll see the chart doesn't add up at all. So all he did, he cherry picked it to meet his criteria, and he sold that to the authorities in America. And he was such an dynamic guy. He was a very glamorous, a very great talker. That time America needed an answer, and he gave them an answer. So the answer was fat. So that's how we started to fear fat. And there were some real powerful people at that time. Robert Lustig, John in America, who called sugar a toxin, a sweet toxin. There was John Yudkin in the UK who called it sweet, called sugar deadly. But Ansel Keys was so powerful, he couldn't stop it. So there was a huge movement to fear fat. So look, we have 3 macronutrients. In fact, we have 4. Alcohol is also a macronutrient, but we won't count that. So if you take away the fat, protein was seen as an issue. You can only induce so much protein. What do you have to increase? Well, you have to increase the carbohydrates. That's what happens to make up the portions. So that's how carbohydrate, the induction of people eating more carbohydrates happen, because less fat, you're eating reasonably that same amount of protein, but you've got to fill up your plate. What do you fill up your plate with? With protein. And then all the fat. I mean, in America, they used to use palm oil all the time, lard to cook with. But when Ansel Keys brought this to people's attention and the government started to endorse it, lard went out the window, palm oil went out the window. And what happened? There was a pharmaceutical company that gave a big donation to the Heart Association in America. And because they gave a big donation, they backed this hypothesis, and it became embedded in the American culture, which invariably came over here. So, and that's why we grow up. We don't know why we fear fat. It's just because what was heard in the media. But we have no reason to fear fat at all. In fact, the kind of fat we eat is kind of stearic acid. It doesn't make us put on weight. What actually makes us put on weight is carbohydrates. What actually gives us atherosclerosis is carbohydrates and the refined form of it. Unfortunately, we're fighting this battle, like what we're doing on here, just to try and change the narrative, change the perceptions of people when it comes to what they eat, because it is our food that is killing us. It is our food that is killing us. And the pharmaceutical industry earns so much money in keeping us on that borderline of being unwell and not well, when really we can we can change our metabolic state just by changing our diet. And, you know, it's been proven so often. So I'm really always a pleasure to be on forums like this, where we talk about, where we honestly, and not just talk about it from a theoretical perspective, but from a personal perspective, because I know it's affected Pete's life in a positive way, and Tanner and mine. I lost 50 pounds. I was over 50, and I lost 50 pounds in 6 months. I reversed my pre-diabetic state. I was practically, my doctor practically had the medication ready to give me for diabetes. And I also cured something which was, a lot of people may not be aware of, is something called sleep apnea, whereby I stopped breathing. I used to have to sleep with a mask over my face every night. And these are just some of the things that the lifestyle, the ketogenic lifestyle, the low carb lifestyle that we're talking about here does. So, you know, I really encourage, if anybody's watching this, is, you know, I always say to my clients sometimes, our thinking got us where we are. So if you're watching this and you may be a diabetic or pre-diabetic, or you're overweight, your thinking and your lifestyle unfortunately got you to that place. It's not going to get you any further. That same thinking is not going to change your lifestyle. The only way you're going to change is by adopting a new lifestyle, a new kind of thinking. And sometimes that can be quite fearful, and because sometimes that can be quite nerve-wracking, but guided by people like Peter and Tanner, they're going to guide you on the same path that they went down to, and guide you with the do's and don'ts. So, you know, I really love what these guys are about and what they're trying to do. And I actually love Pete's attention to detail. He definitely understands this. I can speak to him in any language, and I have to dumb it down. And he's real passionate about that, and I really feel that. So thank you once again, guys, for inviting me to join this. I just wanted to add on a little bit to what Tanner said.
And I'd like to piggyback, Ken, on what you're talking about in regard to the fat, because when Virta Health started down this road, I think it was around 5 or 6 years ago, and I came to them later because, as you said, I reversed prediabetes too. I lost, and the reason I got into the keto lifestyle wasn't so much about weight for me, but I mean, I lost 30 pounds in the first year on the lifestyle. And I want to point out for the viewers that that's because we're not calorie restricting. This is a really important issue. We're not cutting down on the amount of food we eat. We're just cutting down on the amount of carbs. And when we cut down on the amount of carbs, we need to replace those calories, and we are replacing those calories. And the way that we do it is we bring the fat up. But the reason I bring up Virta Health is to piggyback and support what Ken is talking about, because they've been under so much fire by the establishment. Well, you're feeding these people more fat, you're just going to kill them. So as part of the research that they have funded, they've looked specifically at a massive range of cardiovascular and inflammation and lipid markers. And the data that they publish is unequivocal. Your fat profile as a human improves from where you start the keto lifestyle, the longer that you're on it. And I can attest to that on my own personal level too, because I've been rigorously tracking my own bloods. Because like both T and Ken alluded to, in the beginning of this, I'm looking at a stick of butter and I'm going, am I really going to put some of this? Am I really going to start cooking, my food, frying stuff in butter, my eggs, and all this? I'm like, we've been taught to really fear that, and so I looked at what Verta Health was doing, and I literally took their first year and their second year papers. They have other data out at this point, but I put them down on a table and I wrote down. I transcribed the tests that they were doing on their people, and I did those myself. The ones that I could do practically, by having my blood drawn. I mean, there were things that they did in those papers that no regular person coming off the sidewalk is going to be able to achieve in a budget. But I've done the majority of the things that they do, and you in fact see those markers getting better. I mean, they're getting better, period. Because when I started this, I was pattern B. Now, I don't know if our viewers all understand this, but my lipid profile looked like the profile of somebody that was going to have cardiovascular issues down the road. And this is when I was eating carbohydrates. Now that profile looks very different. And so, the truth of the matter is it's all about the carbohydrates. It's not about the fat. And when we lower the carbs, which needs to be done, right, and we bring the fat up to replace those calories, we lose weight. Our fat profile gets better. You have more energy. Inflammation goes down. And I'm 62, and I've was a veteran rock climber, and I have issues in my fingers and in my shoulders and all of these different things, and I'm better off now than I was 2 years ago when I started this, right? There are definite benefits. But I'm going on again, so I'm going to trade it off to whoever wants to jump in.
I'll jump in real quick, and I just want to, again, I don't want to really shove the fat thing in the ground, but because that's been a question that's really been brought up to me here specifically, it's something that I definitely want to discuss. So about 2 years ago, I think it was 2 Christmases ago, I normally spend Christmas here in South Dakota. It's where my mom and my brothers are, and my grandma comes from Kansas City, so this is kind of where I spend my time. And I remember that there was, and this is before I started the keto, so no, it wasn't 2 years ago, it was like the Christmas before, so like 3 Christmases ago. I remember my grandma put a stick of butter in something, and I was like, I almost had a heart attack. I was like, I'm going to eat that, like, with all that butter in there? I literally almost dropped dead. And, because, I had been basically doing, the Mediterranean, well, I don't know if it would even be considered the Mediterranean diet, but it was very, quinoa, rice, all of these things. Once I graduated college, I was kind of that was my routine. So, of course, I hadn't really been using any butter to cook with or anything like that. So I about dropped dead. I literally remember looking at it being like, I'm not going to eat that, Grandma. And she actually looked at me. She's like, I actually think butter's good for you. And I think that that's always going to stay in the back of my mind, is that I actually think butter's good for you because we've been trained to think it's not. So I really just really want to stress the fact that, and actually on the weight thing, it's not something that I really talk about, how much weight I lost, just because to me that's kind of, it's not personal, but it wasn't the factor of why I started the ketogenic lifestyle. But when I started, I weighed 135 pounds, and now I'm down to 119. So I actually weigh what I weighed in high school. But again, that's not why I started the keto lifestyle. I started for hormonal imbalance and just to see if I liked it, and I do. But there's a benefit of that, and I dropped that. I think I don't know if you remember, Dad, but in 4 months, I remember getting on. I'd go over because I live behind your house, and I'd go over on your scale, And one day I looked down and I was like, I think this thing's broken. There's no way. There's no way I'm at like 100 and I think it was like 120 pounds or something. And I actually, down to my lowest, I was 115. Well, I mean, I fluctuate. Women, I think, have a tendency to fluctuate between like, I think it's like 5 pounds or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
well, everybody does actually. Day to day, there's a normal fluctuation. But anyway, go ahead.
well, so some days I'm, I get on the scale, I'm like 115, and then, one day is I'm 119, just depending on. But I really fluctuate between 5 pounds. But to me, that it doesn't even matter. But I think that's a benefit of it. But yes, I think the fat is like a huge thing for me. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the finger. Well, you call it the finger sticking,
Yeah.
but I should probably get back onto the finger sticking. From my perspective, finger sticking is super, super important. Biomarker tracking, I think in general, is extremely important. Because it really helps you measure where you are and what works for you. And I actually think Ken had said this on the Clubhouse and when we had a couple of our talks that every person is different. So my adaptation to the keto lifestyle was, I think, at least my fat adaptation, I think, was a little bit quicker than yours, Dad. I don't know if you remember, but I remember going.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're significantly younger and your system is more robust. Mine, I spent six decades, hammering it with a hammer.
Yeah. So I think at least if the biomarker tracking, I would put that almost as like number one because you really need to understand where you are and what works for you. And I can let you gents go on a little bit more about that. But to me, that helps me determine like what I can and cannot eat. For example, you talk about the replacements. The biggest thing the biggest struggle I had when I'm stopping the keto, stopping like my old lifestyle was taking out chocolate because I'm a huge chocolate person. I think every woman can agree that there's a certain time of month where we just really crave sugar. So that was really hard for me to like give up. But I didn't necessarily give it up. I just had to adjust like how much I was eating and testing it and see kind of what worked for my body. You know what I mean? So to me, I can have like a piece of chocolate, but now a piece of chocolate's like it overwhelms my mouth because I'm not used to sugar. So it's kind of like I'm good at that. But I think that's really important. And I want to let you guys go on a little bit more about that, about the biomarker tracking, because I think that's a really important topic that people are really scared to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, what about people with needle phobias like me? Like, just get it over with. It takes me 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. I have to talk myself into it. I remember, just like side topic, because I think this is important. I remember as a kid, my stepdad was actually type 2 diabetic. And for fun, he'd all have us like finger prick to see what our glucose levels were, which I don't know if that was normal, but now I'm scared of needles. But I'm going to let you guys go on about it. Ken, Dad, do you guys have any comments or anything about fingers or biomarker tracking? Because there's different ways to do it.
With regard to the finger sticking, I mean, when I started my journey, obviously it was a urine stick, and it was easy because I just thought I'm not sticking after eating all this fat. I'm not also sticking my finger as well. But you do learn that the ketone acetoacetate, which is measured in your urine, can sometimes be, once you've been on in ketosis for a while, it can be affected. I think but you live, I think it's I can't remember the direct process. I was just trying to look it up in my notes. So when I saw that, and I realized that the real ketone I wanted to develop was the beta hydroxybutyrate. That's the one I really wanted, and I realized I could only tell if I had that by my blood. I just bit the bullet. And I've never looked back. I've actually got some of the keto sticks still here. I haven't used. So from then, I mean, I think the fear is worse than what it is. It's just a small, quick prick, and it's there. And the great thing about that is you can also measure your glucose at the same time. So,
Wow.
you know, if you push out a little bit, you can do the ketones and squeeze your finger a little bit more. And then, you know, if you got a different, well, mine does both. So I could just take it out and, you know, and then measure my glucose at the same time. So I'm definitely one at the moment for blood. And I try to advise my clients to start that, because as you said, Tanner, you can be a little bit fearful. And I try to tend to get over that fear right in the beginning. But, you know, I help them to do that by letting them know that the ketone they really want to measure, they can only find from their doing the blood meter. And it's, yeah.
And I'm actually here in South Dakota, because I have the blood meter monitor. I left it back in Arizona, but I've been using the Keto pee strips, and I don't know, like, I liked them at first, but I feel like it doesn't give me enough information. You know what I mean? Like, let's say in the evening, the night before, like if I have 2 glasses of alcohol or whatever, I notice that in the next morning my ketone levels are really, really high. Um, and so at least on the pee strip. So I don't actually know, and which is kind of contradicting to what the blood glucose monitor says, which is I've actually, if whoever's watching the blood glucose monitor, you need to get over your fear, and just bite the bullet and get it, because for me, what I've noticed is if I have 2 glasses of alcohol and for some reason on the urine strips my ketones are a lot higher, but when I was testing before on the actual keto moho that I have, my ketones would be lower, but I would be able to tell what my blood sugar was at. So I feel like I'm gonna go back to the keto moho, because I like that a lot better, and it's a lot more accurate, I feel like. But it also allows me to see where I'm at, if that makes sense, because I'd like to understand why are my ketones higher if I have 2 glasses. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. It's interesting.
Well, I think from a health coach perspective, and as well, both of you know, we've been on Clubhouse now a couple of weeks, and one of the benefits of that is just being able to listen to different perspectives, and for me, bouncing that off of my own experience with the clients that we have, right? And I think the thing that I worry about is that there. Number one, I don't want to apologize for having. I don't think that we should apologize for the best practices in coming into this lifestyle, and I feel like there's too much of that that is going on. Whether or not you've come to this for weight loss, and I'm not like saying that that's a trivial thing. One thing I've learned in all of these forums is that there's millions of people that are suffering because of obesity and whatnot, and there's a lot of them in these rooms that we're trying to help. And the thing that I want to try and educate them about is that they have an insulin problem, the same way that me as a pre-diabetic had an insulin problem, which is the same problem that somebody with serious cardiovascular disease has got, that problem too. So when we start the lifestyle, for those of us that really have compelling reasons, it's really important to get low on the carbs. And I don't think you can do that without the biomarkers. And I know, at least in I don't think you can consistently do it. Like, there's this idea out there that with the keto adaptation, fat adaptation argument, that this is going to happen in a couple of weeks. And, when you follow the science, more and more, the science is saying that that's not true. And I think, Ken, you can back me up or argue in a second how you feel about this. But what I do know from my own results, and the literature seems to follow this too, is that your sugar platform responds really quickly to going on the ketogenic diet. And if you know what your ketones are and you know what your blood glucose values are after you've had a meal, you can get down into lower carbs, and you can get into ketosis, and you can stay there fairly easily. And while you see, the effect on the blood glucose by this shift in the lifestyle fairly quickly, these other things that are also underlying in diabetes and obesity and cardiovascular disease, they take longer. And recently, Jeff Volek and Finney, at least before COVID started, where you could actually go to a meeting and listen to those guys and look at their science. They have athletes, and most all of us are not necessarily athletic, but this is important because of the quality of data that's coming from it. I mean, they are seeing people undergoing physiological adaptations out at 20 months. And 20 months is not 2 weeks. So, the ketogenic lifestyle is not a pill. It's not, and this is what I was hearing last night. I heard a lot of different things last night in this one room, but one thing that the keto diet is not, I vehemently disagree with, is to be treated like it's a tool, or like, okay, I have a headache, I'm going to take an aspirin and the headache's going to go away. So you go on a ketogenic lifestyle, and in 2 weeks you've repaired everything, and now you're going to go back to eating carbs. It does not work that way. I mean, over half of our world population is pre-diabetic or diabetic. 72% are overweight and obese, and the cardiovascular disease is on par with the pre-diabetes and the diabetes. So, I mean, we have a world population that has a certain amount of carb intolerance, right, on some kind of continuum. So for us, this is really a meaningful lifestyle change. It's not like something that we're going to do a little while and then we're going to get cured and then we can just go back to eating carbohydrates. And that was sort of this underlying thing last night. It was like getting stung by a bee for me. It really lit me up. So anyway, I'll stop there.
Well, no, before, I just wanted to say, because you just mentioned the diet pill thing. So at archery on Tuesday, I'm in the league. On Tuesday, I went over and Grizz was asking me these questions about high cholesterol, fat, all of this. And there's an individual there who mentioned there's a diet, like a diet pill that my coach could go on that would help like lower. And I was like, and luckily Grizz is like, no, I read Ketonic Revolution's book. I'm gonna stick to this lifestyle. But I was like so nervous at first because I was like, I'm not about to have that conversation. Okay, but go for it, Ken.
It's unfortunate. We live in a lifestyle. We live in a time where there's a crisis, and wherever there's a crisis, there's money to be made. And obesity is a crisis, and people will always try and make money out of it. So if you tinge that obesity crisis with the mentality that we have now, which is everything happens yesterday, there's always a market for people to saying, okay, we can give you this pill and you can do it easier and faster. And people will try, because they will try anything. All they need to get is a celebrity to endorse it and say, this is how I've done it. And they will try it. For me, I was speaking this morning to one of my clients, and I was just saying that, I used to yo-yo diet. And I've been overweight 3 times, and I used to yo-yo. So the reason why I've actually developed my strategy, which is called the Lean Mind Body Method, and it's not rocket science, except the way I put it together. It encompasses low carb nutrition, as you know. It encompasses exercise. Exercise is not fundamental to losing weight, but when it comes to controlling your blood sugar, exercise can be really, really fundamental, really help you to do that. And it can also help with your mindset. Exercise, really, we have something called ego depletion, and I won't go into that right now, but exercise is great for that. But the other 2 things I focused on to make it a lifestyle, one was sleep, because sleep is the best way our body tries to create homeostasis in our body and balance. And when you don't get the right sleep, you could eat as well as you want, but it's going to affect your body through hyperglycemia, cholesterol, and so many other ways. But the final point it was mindset. So I studied CBT because I wanted to create a sustainable way to do it. So, and in my protocol, the mindset, there's strategies that I use in my client to embed it as a lifestyle. So right from the off, they don't see it as a quick fix. Now we know that there years ago, diabetes or even pre-diabetes was seen as a progressive disease. You got diabetes, that's it, you're on tablets for life. I mean, I remember my mum saying, I've got sugar. And I thought, what is that? What is that, mum? I thought it was something sweet. What she meant, she got diabetes. But we know now over the years that it can be reversed or it can be put in remission. But the important words is put in reverse and remission. That means if someone adopts this lifestyle, that's it. They can't go back to the lifestyle they used to have because their body now has a certain amount of carb tolerance, and it means it can only tolerate a certain amount of carbohydrates or refined sugar. And if they go back to eat in this way, it's going to come back. I was on Clubhouse yesterday in a room, and a woman came in. She said, I'd done keto and low carb for about 2 years, lost so much weight, my blood sugar got under control, and said, I kind of found it, I kind of got a bit tired for whatever reason. And then she went back and she said, over the last 6 months, her blood sugar's gone back up, her weight has gone back up again. So I think it's incredibly important that anybody who's looking at this they've got to look at it as a lifestyle. They should never look at it as a quick fix. It's not something for the next. This is your life now. And this is why I'm so much about incorporating what I do into people's lives, showing them how they can. I mean, I've never ate a boring meal on my diet. I mean, yesterday, what did I eat yesterday? I had chicken green curry with cauliflower rice. I had that. Yes, I made the green chicken curry. It was absolutely delicious. I mean, really, really delicious. What else have I had this week? I mean, I made some jerk chicken for my children. They absolutely love the jerk chicken. Last week, I made a pizza using fathead dough. I made a pizza for my children last week. If I was to say to you that I ate a boring meal, I have never ate a boring meal. I really, really enjoy my food. And I just want to say to the individuals watching this, the essence of the way we live is just removing starch. Now, if you eat a plant-based diet, I mean, obviously this lifestyle can still be used a little bit more difficult. But if you're the kind of person that eats meat, all you're in essence doing is removing the starch. That's all you're doing. In its simplistic form, you're removing the starch. You're removing the potato, the pasta, the bread, and from the Caribbean, so that includes the yam and the dumpling and everything else. And then you're also removing the sweet and drinks. That is what you are, and in essence, removing all the other, flavorsome foods like the meats and the fish, and you could eat, and the replacements are wonderful. I mean, cauliflower is, I have to say, I'm one of the people that my mum used to give me cauliflower and broccoli when I was younger. I said, oh God, do you know when you kind of, when your mum's not looking, you throw it in the bin so she thinks she ate it? That was me. That was me when I was younger. But I actually love cauliflower now because, made in a simple way, it's not only nutritious, but it actually does taste nice. So I have not missed rice. I have not missed potato eating all the time. So, and it is about you being a little bit more adventurous. But this way is for me, is my life. And it's just what I do. I'm not on a diet. This is what I do every single day. And, I'm pleased that, I am, what the gift that this lifestyle gives me means that through God's grace, when I'm 70, 80, I'll still be active enough to be able to play with my grandchildren. I won't have to be just looking at them because I've got a lifestyle illness that incapacitates me, because, I'm controlling the way I eat. Because let's be honest, how many people do you know that have lived a long life, but their health span has not been as long? Their lifespan might have been 80, 85, but their lifespan might have been 80, 85, but their health span stopped at about 70 or 65. So what we're talking about on here gives you the ability to make your health span as long as your lifespan. It truly does. It's evidence-based. It's not something that we're pulling out of a hat. There are many people who have been living the way we're living for 10, 15, 20 years. And the great thing is there are in the integrative and functional medicine world, there are so many doctors and chiropractors and and cardiologists who are now saying, hold on a minute, the way we've been doing things has not really been helping our client, and they're now looking and adopting a low carb ketogenic way of in their practice, and that is so encouraging.
Yeah, I know, I agree with you, because so let me just back up what you're saying. I mean, what drove me to look for a way to overcome pre-diabetes was the fact that when it happened, right, and I got the email from the doctor and started doing initial research, right, I got all of the medical establishment stuff, and all of it is like, okay, so this is progressive, eat a Mediterranean diet. But the reality is that you're going to be, there's going to be drugs down the road that you're going to have to take, and there's going to be kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, this whole list of stuff. And, I remember going into my bathroom and looking in the mirror and going, okay, I am not going down this road. There has to be, and I knew enough because of my science background. I'm like, there has to be a way to get healthy. I didn't know at the time what it was. And, what I was thinking was exactly what you got at. I was thinking, okay, my daughter's going to get married at some point. There's going to be grandkids. I'm a rock climber. I want to take those kids climbing. When they arrive, I'm a cave diver. I want to continue doing that stuff if I can, and I want to be able to go scuba diving with my grandkids and my daughter on the reefs and whatnot. I have an incredible wife, and I'm enjoying life with that. And I did to ago about that. In any case, drove me to thinking, and I came on to Dr. who gave this TED talk. I watched it, and that was the doorway that opened. And what I press upon people is that, you're choosing a law here. You choice. You can go down the managed care if that's what you want, right? Or you can go down the reversal of conditions if you want by this lifestyle. And in the beginning, it can seem daunting.
Sorry, Pete, I don't know if something's changed on your end, but you seem to be lagging a little bit. I don't know if something's changed on your end, but
I'm
you
not
just seem
sure.
it was fine before, but just in the last few minutes, you've started to lag a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, and I don't want to try to reset a system right now because it would probably drop the whole meeting. I'm not sure what's going on.
That seems better now. That
Yeah,
seems
it's
better
good
now.
now.
In any case, I'll just finish quickly and just say that, I mean, this is about how you want to live your life, and family and children and the things that we do, our relationships with our spouses. I mean, all of these things should matter. Well, they matter for me, and I want to help people. I want to help people that are at that fork in the road, make a good decision. And if they want the help to do this, the first thing I want them to understand is that it's simpler than it looks. I mean, it's a complex issue making this change. And in the sense that, okay, what do you do, especially in a world where you're used to eating, I call a world of carboholics, right? You look at a typical plate in a restaurant, the amount of starches that are on there, to use Ken's language with it. And how do you shift now to a way of eating which is not going to have those starches? And that can seem really scary to people. But on the other hand, it's really pretty simple to do. And then, you've got to, it's a new lifestyle. So you have to learn how to cook differently. And just in the sense of what can you do with this now? That's a learning experience too. And it can be fun if you tend to look at it, try to position yourself to look at it from a different point of view. But you guys, we've been on 54 minutes and I want to respect everyone's time. So I'm going to be quiet now. And then you two can maybe finish with another statement, and then we should sign off.
Yeah, so I definitely have to sign off soon because I have a meeting that I need to get ready for. But I guess for me, just seeing how substantial like this lifestyle has changed my life, also has changed my dad's life. But not only that, I have I just kind of seeing, I guess, in a more personal way. And just like a quick background is I live in a really small town here. And so when my archery coach told me that he was type 2 diabetic, I wasn't sure how I was going to approach him about, the ketogenic lifestyle because, I'm in a very meat and potatoes town, you know what I mean? Very like old mentality in that aspect of I don't want to change. And once I told him, because when he told me that he was type 2 diabetic and he's 77 years old, I got kind of scared because in a small short of time, he's really impacted my life. He's really taken the time to teach me how to shoot. He really, he put together my bow. He helped me order like all these things, and I guess in like I kind of look up to him as like a step-in grandfather in a way. And I was kind of, when he told me he was type 2 diabetic, I got this fear in my heart that was like, oh no, like I need, you know what I mean? I need more training, more, you know what I mean? So, and seeing him after I brought up the ketogenic lifestyle and he read your story and the way he took that to heart. And not only that, but I mean, it's a small town, so everyone in town loves him. The whole town, I mean, is kind of changing their mentality about what they feed him. You know what I mean? He goes to the restaurant and now it's kind of, he literally, I mean,
that's really cool.
Like they literally like one of the individuals at the Hat Creek Grill, the owner, asked me yesterday. He's like, "Is this something Grizz can eat? Like seriously?" And I asked him. I told him, I was like, "No, that has potatoes. You can't have potatoes." He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna make him something special." You know what I mean with like the ketogenic. So just seeing like, and we talk about the community, just seeing that full force of support behind someone who's passionate about changing his life, and seeing that encouragement from other people in like a place that they don't, I mean, the keto lifestyle is completely something that hasn't been brought here, but it's been working for him. So now he's like, no, if I'm going to eat here, I need to have these things. Anyway, I just thought it was really, really cool, and now people are asking me, is this something Grizz can eat, or is this something we can make him? You know what I mean? Like, and it's like a town thing. I think it's a really cool thing. And then also just seeing how much it's impacted my life, my dad's life. He's going to be around for what I always said, you're going to live till 100 years old. And now that's probably going to be possible.
That's a great story.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's a lovely story there, Ten. I mean, for me, I suppose in closing, I believe I have a responsibility as a father to be around as long as I can for my children and healthy. That's the foundation, and the perspective that comes from is my why. So if you're watching this and you're wondering, whether you're watching it live, you're watching the replay, and you're wondering whether this is for you, I'd say to you, ask yourself a couple of questions. Ask yourself, remind yourself of the condition that you're in, how you're feeling, of your weight, your blood sugar, or the health condition that you're suffering from. And then ask yourself the question is, how have you been tackling it? And how far has that got you to this point? Has that helped you to this point? Because you have to ask yourself, the definition of doing the same thing over and over again is, they call that madness, and you get the same result. And then you say to yourself, well, instead you can ask yourself, what do you have to lose? But ask yourself, what do you have to gain? What do you have to gain from trying this lifestyle, from trying it? And, you know, we're in a time now throughout the world of COVID where we're living in a way, if someone had said you had to live this way, you would have turned around and said no. But you have, and you've adapted. And that and adapting to a ketogenic lifestyle is far easier. Give yourself 3 months. Just give it 3 months. Go all in 3 months if you're following Pete and Tanner. Just give it 3 months. I mean, that's that's 12 weeks. Just give it 3 months. Be all in, do what's necessary, and you make an assessment. And if after 3 months it doesn't work for you, then fair enough. But you know, my coaching years of doing this have told me that if you do this properly for 3 months, you'll see something life changing.
Yeah.
And you'll see something life changing, and you'll be asking, why didn't I do this before?
Right.
And you'll be doing something that your future self will absolutely thank you for. 12 weeks, guys and ladies, we're out. So try it for 12 weeks, guided by Tanner and Dr. Pete. 12 weeks, you know, whether it's weight loss or whether it's reversing your pre-diabetes or whether it's all the other conditions that this helps, like I have a client with PCOS as well. 12 weeks, that's all. And that will go in no time. And then at 12 weeks, you can either look Pete or Tanner in the eye and say, no, that didn't work. But make sure when you look them in the eye and say it didn't work, you're not doing it from the base of you didn't work it, because this works if you work it.
Mm-hmm.
It 100% works if it works it. And I hope that, you know, you've heard something during the time of Pete speaking, Tanner speaking, and myself speaking, different perspectives. People come from different parts of the world at different ages who have embraced the lifestyle that has, you know, embraced a way of eating that has created a lifestyle that we couldn't have dreamed of years ago. You know, I'm fitter, healthier, stronger than I've ever been before. Don't let the beard fool you. I just grew that because of COVID. All right. So, Pete, it's a pleasure being on the show. Pleasure being with you, Tanner. Continue to do what you're doing. Continue to be the example, because sometimes that's what needed in the beginning. You have to be the example. But remember this, that even in your town, as I think you might have noticed, even if people are not coming on board immediately, they're watching you. They are watching you. They're hearing and they're watching you. And some people just take a little bit longer. And when that happens, you just never know when that snowball will come. So yeah, keep up the great work in what you're doing, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank
Go
you
ahead,
so much for being here, Ken. I think you have a really, just a passionate, it's your words are really, really phenomenal. You're very passionate. And I love that. I love passion and energy about this and how much it's changed your life. And I'm so excited and happy for you and so glad that you were able to join us today. And I think you're awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, I love your global sense, because I have a tendency to dive for the details, because I feel like I'm the logistics man, right? But the truth is, you know, I think it's most important to be able to stand back and really look at the big picture here. And the big picture is trying to have a healthy life, and you know, being with our family and being able to live dreams together and things like that. And it's like you say, you know, if you give the lifestyle a chance and you actually go all in on it, you're going to benefit. I mean, that's the bottom line. So.
And thank you, Sam, for joining us today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'm going to hop off.
Yeah, thanks for everyone who joined us. Thanks again, Ken, and probably see you on Clubhouse today.
Yeah, on Clubhouse today, and you know, we discussed you gracing me on one of my podcasts on the 21st. Hopefully, you can confirm that. So, but yeah, we can return the reciprocal favor of me interviewing. Well, no, you wasn't interviewing me, but you sharing some of your wisdom.
Well, absolutely. I think I messaged you. I'll look again and make sure I did that, but I put it on my calendar.
Absolutely, and I'll send you a message definitely regarding that. But Tanner, keep up the great work.
Thanks.
Yeah. Fantastic to see young people I'm young too, but you're just younger. All right. Don't think I'm not saying you're young and I'm old. Let me just be clear. My daughter will tell me I'm an old man. No, have a bit of a mature body. All right. But
Thank
it's
you.
great to see a young person like you being an advocate of this, right? So keep up the great work, all right? And anytime I can be of assistance, you know how to reach me, all right? So guys, you have a great, I know it's morning there for you. It's 3:25 here. So I've got another client at 4:00 p.m. So I'm going to go and
All right.
see them. All right, Pete, okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.